Hello beautiful cubers, it's Chill MTG here, another vintage cube draft. Excited to bring this one to you. First pick, looking at a Duretti, looking at an Underground Sea. It's always smart to pick lands, but I do love me a Duretti. So we're going to pick up the strong 3-mana Planeswalker here. Second pack, a lot of different directions we can go. Damnation if we want to go more controlling. I also think, it may be an underplayed card, Phyrexian Metamorph plays pretty well in the Vintage Cube. There's just so much strong permanence that you can copy. A 3-mana card that's effectively colorless because of the Phyrexian mana is sometimes a good pickup. So I'm going to pick that up here, pick 2. Here in pack 3, Gonti looking like exactly where we want to be. Consideration for Wasteland, just because Wasteland's colorless, but I think Gonti's where we want to be. I'm not a huge fan of Ancestral Vision. There's really nothing in this pack pulling us towards blue, and Phyrexian Metamorph, even though it is blue, I consider a colorless card. Here in pack 4, beautiful to see another strong 3-mana Planeswalker. Assessing this pack, again, a lot of good lands, really, so I would not fault anyone picking up like a Windswept Heath here to stay open. But deck is so strong, especially in the Vintage Cube with so many artifacts running around. It's a perfect pickup. Now, this next pack is kind of interesting for us. We kind of get faced with our first decision point. The 3 cards I'm looking at here is Portent, Worn Powerstone, and Riftwing Cloudskate. Why those cards? So Worn Powerstone keeps us open. It's not the strongest artifact ramp, but it's decent. Portent is an okay draw spell, allows you to, look at the top of your library and shuffle if you want. So it's a cantrip that allows you to adjust the top of your library. It's not as good as a card like Ponder. Portent was a Ponder here. I think I'd probably lean towards the Ponder. And then Riftwing Cloudskate, very strong card. So I don't necessarily want to commit to 2 blue mana pips. If I wanted to go strong into blue, I think Riftwing Cloudskate is the pick here. But I think let's just pick up the Worn Powerstone and stay open. Here in this next pack, looking at Grave Titan, Pestermite, possibly Ugin with the artifact ramp, but Grave Titan is just such a surefire bet. 6-mana spell that can definitely take over the game. Let's throw it in there since we're already playing Gonti. Next pack, looking at the Rakdos Signet, great pickup. Other contention is Firebolt, but having a Signet in the colors we know we want to be, which is black-red for right now, happy to pick that up. And happy to pick up the Blackleaf Cliffs here. So this was the pack with our Duretti in it. Really not much left in this pack. I do not like Woe Strider, at least not in the Vintage Cube. I just don't think it's powerful enough. We can hedge and put a Corpse Dance in the sideboard. Stormcarved Coast, looking good, helping that blue splash. And right now I'm really just considering a blue splash in our deck. And rounding out pack 1 here, just some other filler that's not going to make the deck. So looking at our deck now, definitely looking black-red. Or at least black with a red splash or a blue splash. And we'll have to see how these other picks solidify as we try to get into our colors. Pestermite, not a bad pickup here. It could potentially make the deck even if we're not running a Kiki Jiki combo. And then a Dreadfast Demon is a last pick. Okay, pack 2. Ho, yes, there it is. Soul Ring, ding, ding. Don't really have to look at other stuff, but we can see what we think might wheel. Obviously, Soul Ring is making the deck. Other things to look at here on the potential wheel. Inspired Idea, I do not like. I don't think it's a great draw spell. And then Massacre Worm is the other card in our color. Also, probably don't need that one. We already have the 6-mana Grave Titan. Ferocidon, Banefire, not really anything strong to draw us in a red. So we're going to pick up the Soul Ring. Don't really see much coming along on the wheel. This pack just isn't that strong outside of Soul Ring. Okay, in this next pack, I know you see it. I see it. Polluted Delta. Now, we don't have any dual lands yet to fetch this up, but I know we're going to get something, and it's going to help our splash if we do want to stay in blue. This pack, going straight to the Prismatic Vista. Other consideration could be a miscalc if I want to go more controlling. But again, I'm not really looking to play blue hard. I just want to kind of splash. So the Prismatic Vista is perfect. And then 2 picks after we pick up the Polluted Delta, we're rewarded with a Watery Grave. That's the dual land that will definitely make the deck for splashing this Dak Fade in. Grim Monolith, definitely sorry to see it go. I would love to replace the Worn Powerstone with the Grim Monolith. But I think the right pick here is just to make sure our mana is good as good as we can make it. This next pack, again, I'm not looking to play blue, so repeal, at least I'm not looking to play blue outside of a splash, excuse me. So I don't think repeal is the right pick. I'm just going to pick up the Murderous Rider. It's good interaction against planeswalkers and creatures. I know it'll probably make the main deck. This next pack, again, we could go Baral, but I think blue is our splash. I like Zealous Conscripts. We are in red with Duretti and Dak Faden, and Zealous Conscripts can kind of just win out of nowhere by stealing something big from our opponent. There's Kiki. Not looking to commit into Kiki, even though we do have the Zealous Conscripts. I think I'm just going to pick up the Lava Claw Reaches here. Again, just make mana fixing as good as possible. And then after I pick up the Black-Red Dual Land, here's the actual Black-Red Dual Land with Badlands. I'm going to pick this one up as well. I don't think Pack Rat is that great of a card either. Let's get the mana as good as possible. I'm loving our mana. We can pretty much play Grixis to our heart's content. Trying to decide what I want to pick up out of this pack. I really am not a huge fan of Inspired Idea, but maybe it'll make the deck. Faithless Looting versus Even Death Dracolich. I think Faithless Looting might be the pick here, but I think I do pick up the Even Death, and it's kind of just filler. Happy to see Imperial Recruiter come around. We don't have a lot of targets, but we do have some. So Murderous Rider can get picked up, Gonti can get picked up, and the Phyrexian Metamorph can get picked up because it's a 0/0 itself. So Imperial Recruiter, very strong card, happy to get it. Rounding out pack 2, not really seeing anything else that's going to make the deck, so we'll just kind of get over to pack 3. All right, pack 3. What is looking good? So Darkslick Shores in our colors, but I think our mana is looking pretty good. Library Alexandria, card advantage on a land. Definitely better than Knight's Whisper. Library Alexandria is where we want to be. Oh man, we just got past an Ancestral Recall. Get in the deck. I can't even grab that card fast enough. Get in the deck now. Other great cards in this pack. Floodistran for another blue fetch. We also have a Creeping Tar Pit. I would love to see the Creeping Tar Pit come along on the wheel. Maybe we'll get lucky. Get in here, Ancestral Recall. Hey, there's the Ponder we were talking about. There's also a Bayou if I want to splash green. I don't really see a reason to splash green yet, so I do see Ponder. Other considerations is Bitter Blossom to just get some bodies on the field, but you know what? Ponder's too good for card advantage and card selection, so let's just get in here in the deck. Okay, for this next pack, there is one of the most underrated cards in the Vintage Cube, and that's Magda Brazen Outlaw. Magda fixes you, ramps you. It's really pretty versatile 2-drop. Does not demand a lot of color because it's one red, one colorless. Take for example Kroxa, right? Kroxa is only also in this pack. Kroxa is only going to go in your red-black or red-black splash decks. Magda, any deck that's playing red, whether you're aggressive, whether you're more mid-range, you're going to want to probably pick up Magda. So I'm happy to pick up Magda here. Throw the dwarf in the deck. This next pack, so I've been saying for a while that I don't want to put double blue mana pips in the deck, but I don't really see a lot of other options here. Steamkin is not the right card for this deck. There is Scavenger for consideration, but Mystic Confluence is such a strong card. I'm going to kind of speculate a little bit because our fixing is looking pretty good. Here in this next pack, so there's Blood Chief's Thirst, Thirst for Discovery, and Lightning Strike, as well as a red fetch. We could really kind of take any 4 of these cards, and I think they'd be okay. The red fetches for black-red. The Blood Chief's Thirst is a great removal spell. I think I probably would pick up Thirst for Discovery if we didn't already have Ancestral Recall. But the fact that we do have Ancestral Recall, I'm just leaning towards the Lightning Strike or the Blood Chief's Thirst. Knowing that we don't have a lot of cards left in this third pack, I'm not going to pick up the Arid Mesa because I don't think we're going to get a Steam Vents or a Volcanic Island. So I'm going to pick up the Blood Chief's Thirst. It can get problematic Planeswalkers out of the way and happy to make the deck. Here we're looking between Blood Crypt and Shipwreck Marsh. So we already have the Badlands. So let's pick up the black-blue fixing. Very happy to pick that up. Again, since we have Ancestral Recall here in this next pack, Dig Through Time, double blue, great draw spell, but I don't really want to commit as much to double blue, so let's get the Unholy Heat in the deck. And here's another Darkslick Shore, so we're basically getting all the black-blue fixing that's coming around, and it's great to see. Sora Temptation, we're going to throw down here. Now I'm kind of getting a little bit worried about having enough playables. We've drafted such good mana. You can see we have 29 cards drafted and 10 lands, so I need a few more playables. So these last few cards, really happy to see Croaks the Wheel here, by the way. These last few cards are a little bit filler, but we just need to round out the deck. So Maybe there was a mistake I made somewhere in this draft where I wasn't committing enough to a color, but we will have to play a couple suboptimal cards. But overall, though, I think our 23 are going to be pretty strong. So here's the deck as it ended up. You can see we are Grixis pretty solidly. We do have the Sower and the Mystic Confluence in the deck, so double blue pips. Also playing Yorion with the double blue pip. We also have some double black pip cards and then red in there as well. So pretty evenly split between the three colors. However, our fixing is great. You can see we're only running 7 basics. We have a Soul Ring. We have an Ancestral Recall. I'm excited to hit the games, so I'll see you in match 1. Okay, welcome to match 1. We are on the play. Here's an interesting decision. We got a pretty slow hand. All of our colors of mana, 2 3-drops, a 5-drop, and a 7-drop. Not a lot of interaction, but you know, I don't know. We could have kept our mulligan to this hand. We're going to keep, and let's see how it plays out. Leading off on the Lava Claw Reaches as the tap land, pass into the opponent. Let's see what our opponent is going to do. It looks like our opponent's playing green. I like our odds against a base green deck. All right, there's Library of Alexandria. I'm going to be able to turn that on next turn. Pretty happy with that draw. Would have loved to have had our opening hand, obviously. Library is going to just help keep us ahead this game. Our opponent plays the Urza Saga and then plays the Sylvan Caryatid. This is actually a pretty troublesome card. For us, it's going to avoid our removal because of that hexproof. I really actually do like Sylvan Caryatid as a 2-drop in a green deck splashing other colors just because your opponent can't interact with it. And that's going to prove true for us here. Turn 3, dropping the Even Death Dracolith. Definitely filler, so let's draw with the library. Oh, and there's that Blood Chief's Thirst. If Sylvan Caryatid was any other mana dork, it'd be dying right now, but I can't interact with it, so we'll play our island and pass the turn. All right, our opponent plays an island, so definitely 2 colors for sure. And then they play an Izzet Signet as well. So potentially 3 colors. Interesting to see what our opponent has going on here. And our opponent can still activate the Urza Saga because of the Sylvan Caryatid to tap for the Izzet Signet. All right, drawing for our 4th turn, we get a Murderous Rider. Let's draw again and see what Library has for us. Duretti. Oh, that's a great draw, and we have the mana to cast it. This is why having beautiful mana is beautiful. So Duretti's going to come down. We're going to make a construct token and pass the turn back to our opponent. We have a lot of action in our hand. I really kind of want to just hit land drops now to be able to play this action out. All right, our opponent's going to double up on the construct tokens here, which is a good play. And let's see what they fetch up with their Saga trigger. Okay, so they fetch up a Mox Emerald. Great for them if in a base green deck so far. And then they play the Storm Carved Coast. So definitely 3 colors. And then there's a black card. Okay, so our opponent's on some spicy stuff playing the old Rutstein. That was an awesome play for them because down comes a blood token, immediately pumping their construct. Their construct's going to get in there, try to take out Duretti. Definitely let's chump that. And again, see if we can draw some lands to get some of this action out of our hands. So I'm going to draw here because I do want to get the land with Library. And then we do draw Ancestral Recall as well. So plenty of card draw to go around. We're just going to get a little jammed up on the mana. I'll plus Duretti to make the Defender. And now a little bit of card disadvantage, but I think it's worth it. I want to play the Blood Chief's Thirst on their construct token. I have so much card advantage going with Library and Ancestral Recall. I don't mind paying the card to get rid of, the token. Pass the turn back to our opponent. Old Rutstein trigger, insect token hits the board for them. Our opponent has a decent amount of mana available. So let's see what they play here. All right. Dragon Lord Atarka. That's probably going to get aimed at our Duretti. It is aimed at our Duretti. And we are well behind on this board. Even though we have a full grip, I think I want to fire off the Ancestral Recall here just to see if there's some cards that we can get to help even this board state out a little bit. We don't have any sweepers in the deck, but I'm hoping to hit some mana to be able to possibly double spell. We're going to need to get multiple cards onto the battlefield to come back from this. So let's play Ancestral. And okay, no lands. That's okay. We have a Dak Faden, and then we draw not another land as well with the Worn Power Stone. So all right, I don't think we can Library here. I kind of want to use all my mana if I can. So let's get the Rakdos Signo down. It only kind of costs 1 mana. We have 4 mana left available. Multiple options we can take. But really, I think the right play here is to get the Phyrexian Metamorph down. Let's copy the Dragonlord Atarka, showing you the power of Phyrexian Metamorph. And then let's blow up a couple of their creatures on the board. I think the old Rutstein and the Insect token is the way to go because I can block. The Rutstein's getting them some decent value right now. And then by paying the Phyrexian mana cost this way, we're able to leave up Library of Alexandria, so we will be able to draw at the end of their turn after we discard down to hand size. For discard here, I definitely think I should discard the Even Death as I can play it from the graveyard, but we discard the Murderous Rider. So definitely not the right discard there. Should have paid a little bit more attention because the Murderous Rider I could have used to just kill the Dragonlord Atarka next turn. So yes, I think that was a misplay in the discard, but let me tell you what's going through my mind right now. I'm thinking I can use this Zealous Conscripts to swing for 16 in the air at our opponent and maybe win out of nowhere. And then I maybe need to find 4 more points of damage. In hindsight, looking at this game, I think the right play definitely would have been pitch the Even Death Dracolich, use Murderous Rider the following turn to kill the Dragonlord Atarka, leaving our Dragonlord Atarka available to, to block the Construct token or something else. That probably would have been a better line. All right, so let's see what our opponent has for us. Yep, they're going to come in with the Atarka. I don't think I should block. I don't block. Let's just take the 8, take some medicine, and really have an explosive next turn. Good sign. Our opponent is pitching Damnation to draw with the Blood token. Interesting. So they definitely think, they are ahead on board, but they definitely don't think they need to wipe the board. And then that's pretty good play. They play the Baleful Strix. That's going to kill our Dragonlord if we attempt to attack in with it. But we do have the Dak Faden available to steal the Baleful Strix. And then I noticed something interesting, which I didn't notice before. Our opponent is on a 60-card deck, a 60-card Yorion deck, and so they did just put Yorion in their hand. All right, we do draw a Kroxa, and our opponent has 4 cards in hand. So I'm trying to figure out the right line of play. It's pretty complicated board state. Dak Faden could steal the Baleful Strix or the Construct token. I think the right play here is to steal the Baleful Strix to make sure our Dragonlord Atarka does not die on attack. So that's what we're going to do. And then that'll leave 3 mana left over. So, but when I make this play, I think I thought I had a second blue source because I would love to play the Pestermite here to tap down our opponent's Dragonlord Atarka. That would allow us to get in with 8 this turn, tap our opponent's Dragonlord down next turn, and then get in again with the Zealous Conscripts and their own Dragonlord. I miscounted my mana. I didn't really recognize I didn't have 2 blue sources in time, so I choose just to play the Worn Power Stone and pass. This is super risky because now I have 1 blocker. If they remove this blocker at all, we're just dead. And yeah, there it is. There's a wear on the Baleful Strix. So bad play by us. I left ourselves open to a 1-card kind of blowout. Our opponent had it. And now we got to go to sideboarding. So our opponent's on some 4-color kind of value nonsense. Looking through the sideboard, I don't think there's a lot in here. I'm kind of just happy with the cards that we have. So let's just run it straight back. All right, on the play again, since we lost the first game, let's see how this hand looks. We got our colors of mana, and we have 2 strong planeswalkers. This is a snap keep. All we got to do is draw 1 land within our first 2 draw steps to play one of these 3 mana planeswalkers out on curve. So that's what I'm hoping to do. So we'll lead with the Badlands in case they play something we can kill with the Unholy Heat. They don't. They lead with the Overgrown Tomb tapped, and they pass the turn back. There's our 3rd land. Perfect. We'll play the Island and pass, again holding up the Unholy Heat. Right on time, our opponent plays Sylvan Caryatid, the one creature I can't interact with this Unholy Heat. Dang it. Sylvan Caryatid showing us the value of hexproof on that thing. Okay, so now we draw our Soul Ring. So let's get our Soul Ring down, and then let's get Duretti down. I'm going to hold Dak Faden in hand. They don't have any artifacts on the battlefield to steal yet, so let's play Soul Ring, get Duretti down, make sure we'll plus Duretti appropriately here, make a construct, and pass the turn back to our opponent. All right, perfect. Our opponent plays a Boros Signet, and then they also play a Basalt Monolith. So we have plenty of artifacts we can steal with Dak Faden, and then we draw an Ancestral Recall. So we are rolling in card advantage right now. Fortunately, we can't play Dak and the Ancestral Recall with only a single blue source. So let's lead off. I do want to destroy one of these artifacts, and I'm going to destroy the Basalt Monolith, just because if I steal Basalt Monolith, it won't untap unless I pay mana into it. So let's actually destroy the Basalt Monolith, and then let's play Dak Faden and steal the Boros Signet. Why? Well, we effectively just took our opponent off of 4 mana. When they're playing cards like Dragonlord Atarka, I'm happy to keep them down 4 mana off. So that was a great turn for us. We effectively double spelled by killing their Basalt Monolith and then stealing their Signet. Our opponent plays a Uro. Not too scary. I'm not super scared of Uro in this format usually, unless I'm an aggressive deck. But so they play Uro and they play an additional land, and they have a second play, the Woe Strider. Again, Woe Strider, okay. Not super worried about it. I'm going to Unholy Heat this thing. He's still going to get the 0/1 trigger, but he won't be able to scry off of it. All right. Passing the turn to us, we draw the Even Death. Let's draw an Ancestral Recall and see what's going on. All right, Lava Cloud Reaches, Pestermite, and Zealous Conscripts. All right, so I think we're going to formulate a game plan here. We have even more card selection with Dax Plus ability, so let's get that down and see what we draw. We draw a Croxa and a Black Leaf Cliff. So pitching the Even Death here, that's a correct decision. And then the other decision is, what is the second card we want to pitch to this? Seeing as there's no creatures on the battlefield right now and our opponent only has 2 cards in hand, I think we can just safely pitch the Black Leaf Cliffs. And now we can play the Croxa to get one of those other cards out of our opponent's hand. And our opponent pitches a Damnation. So it was a pretty valuable Croxa. And with Dak on the battlefield, we'll be able to bring this Croxa back pretty quickly. All right, our opponent untaps. Let's see what they have. All right, a Tezzeret. Pretty strong Planeswalker. On this board, though, they don't have any other artifacts they can animate, so they can definitely tutor something up. And they also don't have any artifacts they can untap. So, okay, so he minuses 1 for a Skull Clamp, which is going to be able to draw cards immediately off that Goat token, which is pretty good. But our opponent's tapped out now. All right, so our opponent is playing 5 colors, maybe some sort of Golos deck, I would anticipate with what I've seen. And then they pass the turn back to us. We draw a Swamp for turn, and now we can kind of just go crazy. So let's plus with Dak. The other consideration is to steal the Skull Clamp. When I have an active Duretti, stealing a Skull Clamp means I effectively have almost infinite card draw. So let's minus our Dak, steal the Skull Clamp from our opponent, which that's a interesting play to play the Skull Clamp when you're up against a Dak Faden. And now we can use that Skull Clamp on our own constructs to draw cards. And additionally, let's play the Zealous Conscripts. We're going to steal the Tezzeret, and we're going to -3 the Tezzeret to search up our own artifact while simultaneously killing the Tezzeret. This is a great use of Zealous Conscripts. If you steal an opponent's Planeswalker, sometimes you can ultimate that Planeswalker, or in a case of a -X like Tezzeret, I can minus for 3, get its ability, and get my opponent's Planeswalker off the board at the same time. And so that's what we're going to do. We'll search up a Worn Power Stone here, which is beautiful. Put that on the battlefield. And then we are also able to get in with 3 with the Zealous Conscripts. That was an awesome turn for us. So they play a Goblin Relder, which I kind of want to get off the battlefield. And we'll Swift End that card. All right, pass the turn back to us. We draw a Dark Slick Shore, is not that effective, but we can use the Skull Clamp. So let's play the Skull Clamp first to draw before we make a land drop. That way, in case we draw an untapped land, we can do that. We draw a Mountain, so we're going to be fine to put the Mountain down. Maybe we can draw again if we want to. Yeah, let's draw again, see what else we draw. Just so much card advantage here with the Duretti and the Skull Clamp, and we get a Sower, okay. And that second blue source to play the Sower. So I really like that. So let's play the second blue source plus our Duretti, where if we want to, we could Skull Clamp again. Let's get Magda on the board just for something to play. And then the other thing I'm thinking of now is we can just hold up Mystic Confluence, solidify our lead on this board. We'll plus up, we'll put the Skull Clamp on the Zealous Conscripts to increase our damage output and get in there for 4. And we'll pass the turn back to our opponent, holding up Mystic Confluence. All right, so our opponent plays a Grist, which is a pretty good card. Can destroy our Duretti. I don't really like it. They have 4 mana available, so we're going to have to counter for 2 modes, and then we can draw with the 3rd mode. Get out of here, Grist. I don't want to see your kind on the battlefield. And for some reason here, our opponent pays 3. I guess not realizing that we did the pay 3 mode twice, so probably doesn't mean to. I mean, maybe that took him off of another play. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. Kind of a mistake played by their opponent. All right, we draw a Yorion. I don't really have a lot of stuff I want to flicker at this time, so I think the right play here is just get the Grave Titan down pretty easy. So we can plus a Duretti, Get in with the Zealous Conscripts, get the Grave Titan down, and hold up Pestermite for any shenanigans maybe that our opponent wants to do. And then I'm tapping in a certain way because I want to be able to hold up Pestermite. Our opponent does have access to 7 mana, and if what I can do is I can tap down their lands on their upkeep so they can't play Dragonlord Atarka next turn. We'll move the Skull Clamp to a construct, draw a couple cards, Watery Grave, Dreadfast Demon, which is super awesome when you have a Duretti on the board, and then move the Skull Clamp around and pass the turn. All right, so on opponent's upkeep, because they have 7 mana available with the Caryatid, I want to tap them off of a color, or at least just off of 1 mana source so they can't play Dragonlord Atarka this turn if they do have it in their hand. And unless our opponent has a board wipe, which they don't because they pitched the Damnation earlier, I really don't see them getting out of this. And even if they did, I have the Skull Clamp and a bunch of action in our hand. All right, so our opponent plays their own Yorion, but there's really nothing to flicker for them. With our Duretti active, we can easily just sack a construct to kill the Yorion. So that's what we'll do, and this should be enough damage for us to get through to win the game. Well, they can block the Grave Titan, but they're going to be at a low life total. I think this is 11 points of damage if they block the Grave Titan. All right, our opponent's at 1. Good luck, opponent. All right, our opponent untaps and plays a Sundering Titan. Interesting. That's not going to be enough to get him out of it, and it's going to hurt them as much as it hurts us. So, not sure why our opponent made that play. Now I know they have a Sundering Titan in their deck, just gee whiz. We're going to be able to untap an Alpha Strike, and we'll quickly move on to game 3 here. Here's like a million zombies coming at you, opponent. All right. We win on to sideboarding. So we did really well that game. I don't think there's any changes we need to make just to take a quick look here. But no, I think we just need to run this back and make sure we don't make any misplays like we did in the first game. All right, game 3 here in match 1. We have all of our colors of mana, some interaction, definitely a keep. Our opponent leads on an untapped Overgrown Tomb, playing a Noble Hierarch turn 1. Oh, this Unholy Heat has your name on it, Hierarch. So we'll get the Black Leaf Cliffs down and bolt the bird. Pass the turn back to the opponent. Opponent plays an Urza Saga, pretty decent second turn land, and passes the turn back. We draw another land, not ideal, but that's okay. We do have the Watery Grave available next turn if we need to play the Pestermite for some reason. Our opponent plays a fetch land, a Wooded Foothills, searching up a Sacred Foundry, untapped again, having 3 mana available. It looks like our opponent's going to want to make a construct token. We draw an Imperial Recruiter. So we have 2 of our Imperial Recruiter targets in our hand. We could also go get Phyrexian Metamorph or Gonti. And so I think Gonti is the right play here, not really knowing what's going on with our opponent. Gonti's probably the right card we want to search up here. Other consideration could be Sower or Metamorph, but let's just get Gonti. Let's just take something awesome from our opponent. Pass the turn back. At the end of our turn, the opponent makes a construct token, and then they make a second construct token again with the 3rd trigger on the stack for this Urza Saga. And then they search up Skull Clamp and then play an Emery. Okay, some artifact shenanigans going on over there, but I think we can beat this. We got a Gonti, we got a Murderous Rider. Not too worried yet about what they got going on. So let's see what we draw. Polluted Delta, okay, that's fine. We'll be able to search up an island, a basic island if we want it. We got plenty of black sources, and the Watery Grave is already in our hand. So I will search up that island just to thin out that deck a little bit. And then we'll just slam the Gonti down for now. I'm not worried about anything they got going on at this time. Yeah, and let's see what we get. All right, so we hit their Sundering Titan and their Grist. I think having your own Grist played against you is pretty backbreaking. So let's pick the Grist and pass the turn back to the opponent. Our opponent untaps, plays a Swamp for turn, and then plays a Duretti. Are we in the mirror match? I feel like we're in the mirror match, but they're just also playing white and green. So Duretti with the construct tokens from the Urza Saga is kind of unreal because he can just pump his own token, his construct tokens so easily. And then he gets in with a Skull Clamp equipped construct token. So let's block with our Gonti, which is going to kill the token with the Death Touch. That's going to allow him to draw 2 cards, unfortunately. We're going to have to answer this Duretti with the Murderous Rider. And now we're a little behind just because they have a Skull Clamp with card draw. We don't have a lot of action. We do draw a Metamorph. So we could Metamorph the Duretti, but there's just so much value with that Skull Clamp and that Duretti over there. Let's just get rid of the Duretti. And then we also have the Grist available that we could play. That was another consideration, was to play the Grist, but if we played the Grist and then sacrificed the Imperial Recruiter to kill the Duretti, then we would just lose the Grist the next turn to their attack, to our opponent's attack. That's why I didn't play the Grist. All right, our opponent gets in again with the Construct, and we definitely got a game 3 going on here. It's kind of up in the air. I'm hoping our opponent doesn't do anything crazy. Okay, so they equip the Skull Clamp to the 1/1 to draw 2 more cards. Our opponent's got a full grip with 6 cards, and then they play a Signet, followed by another Signet. So our opponent's kind of got all the mana going on over there. All right, and we draw a Dak. That is a perfect answer to our opponent's card draw value with the Skull Clamp. 6 mana, we're going to be able to play Grist, and we're going to be able to play Dak, which I think is super awesome. So Grist here, we can sack the Imperial Recruiter to kill the Construct token, but I think I just want to make a 1/1 blocker for right now. And then I choose not to play Dak by holding up Pestermite, apparently. Not sure why I made that play. Probably should have just gotten the Dak down and stolen the Skull Clamp, but we'll see. So now our opponent's going to go to attacks. I am going to flash in the Pestermite here to tap the Construct token, which is going to allow us to kind of keep some good loyalty on our Grist without having to chump block. So and then the second main phase, our opponent plays an Uro. Oh, I'm sorry, our opponent escapes an Uro. Happy for him to do that. We have the Grist on the board. I'll be able to sacrifice the Insect token to kill the Uro. And they won't be able to easily replace it because they don't have enough cards in their graveyard. And then our opponent plays a Basalt Monolith. So followed by an Ever-Flowing Chalice on 1. Okay, opponent. You got all the artifacts and all your colors of mana. All right, Gravetottem, pretty good draw. Right now, the only threat on their board is the Uro, followed by the Skull Clamp, giving them card draw. So let's get the Uro out of here, and then I really feel like we need to play, well, I guess we could play the Grave Titan to kind of end this thing, but I feel like if I play the Dak and steal the Skull Clamp, then like they just won't be able to get back into it. But all right, I decided to play the Grave Titan. We're going to make 2 more bodies that Grist can sacrifice, and then we're going to get in there with the Pestermite. Could have gone either way. We just playing the Grave Titan. Could have played the Dak Faden. I think I just want to get this game closed out. So our opponent plays a Cryptologist and a Goblin Welder. So they'll be able to weld back some artifacts. But right now, luckily for us, there's no artifact in their graveyard. However, their Construct token is a 7/7. So not shabby. Then our opponent plays a Wall of Blossoms, moves the Skull Clamp over to the Wall of Blossoms, and it's just got a lot of card draw going on. Also making a couple clue tokens with the Cryptologist, and they have an 8/8 Construct, but no good attacks. We got some good chump blockers. So at this time, we got to play the Dak, right? We just got to play the Dak. No, let's lead off a Ponder. Oh man, chill. Play the Dak already. All right, there's a Mystic Confluence, a Soul Ring, and a Worn Power Stone. I think the Mystic Confluence is how we'll be able to win, because I'll be able to tap their team, or be able to return creatures to their hand, and then attack. So at least that's the game plan. Let's Dak, and then the question is what to steal. I can either steal the Skull Clamp or their Construct token. The Skull Clamp is giving them just immediate card value all the time, and their Construct token is their only kind of threatening creature. But let's take the card value for them, steal that Skull Clamp. Now, the Skull Clamp's still attached to the Wall Roots, but we control it, so just got to remember we need to move the Skull Clamp over to one of our creatures. Initially, when I did that, I was like, wait, what happened? It's like, don't freak out. We control the Skull Clamp. Just move it onto one of our creatures. All right, after that, I decide to sacrifice Grist to kill their Construct. And then Grist goes to their graveyard because Grist was their Planeswalker. And then we'll attack in there. I'm just trying to remove some blockers. They don't really have any great blocks. They can chump or they can take 8. So our opponent decides to chump. And then we can get the Soul Ring down and move the Skull Clamp over to another creature if we wanted to. Or I decide to get the Worn Power Stone on the battlefield, just be tapped out. So my plan next turn is to just return creatures to our opponent's hand using the Mystic Confluence and get in there for a bunch of damage with the zombies and the Grave Titan. Okay, then our opponent plays a Scarab God, and they do have the mana to activate it because they do have black and blue they do have blue mana through the Is It Signet. So what are they going to bring back is the question. So they decide to reanimate our own Gonti, which is a pretty good move. Gonti is a great card, even better as a 4/4 Death Touch. But this is just making our Mystic Confluence look even better. I can put the Gonti back into our hand with Mystic Confluence and get rid of 2 of their other blockers. And then our opponent is going to sack 3 clues to look at the top 3 cards of our library. Doesn't look like they hit anything, which is lucky for us. All right, we draw a library. Not too great. We don't have too many cards in our hand. I do plus with Dak first. Don't need the library. Don't need the Stormcarved Coast. I do decide to pitch the Yorion though, just to get an additional blue source on the battlefield. And now this probably, I think I have the game in the bag, but let's just really make sure we're good to go. So I play the Metamorph, copying the Scarab God. So I now have a Scarab God. Thank you very much, opponent. And then let's play the Mystic Confluence to bounce the Gonti, the Scarab God, and the Emery, having them have no blockers, and then we can just get in there with Alpha Strike for lethal. Like I said, didn't need to play the Metamorph on Scarab God before I did this. It's just in case. It was just in case. And, just to rub it in, let's just reanimate one of their creatures as well. Oh, but I don't have enough mana, as I realized. So we'll move the Skull Clamp over, and now I feel like I'm just kind of drawing this one out. I think unintentionally. All right, there it is. We win the match. On to match 2. All right, here we are in match 2, game 1. We are on the draw, and this hand, no blue source, 3, 4, 5 drop, a little too slow. Let's ship it back. Let's mulligan this hand and hope for a better 7. Oh yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Soul Ring and all 3 colors of mana, Dak Faden. Let's ship back the Mystic Confluence. Because we have the Imperial Recruiter in hand, we may be able to get some flicker value from Yorion. And let's see what our opponent is up to. Opponent leads on a Shipwreck Marsh, blue-black, tap land, and we draw a Swamp for turn. We're going to lead with the Soul Ring and pass the turn back. Our opponent untaps and plays a Swamp, followed by a Baral, Chief of Compliance. Okay, our opponent's on some sort of blue-black control. Let's see what we draw for our next turn. Another black source. So I'm thinking I want to just get the Imperial Recruiter down, and looking over at what's in the deck, I think I just want to go grab Gonti. Gonti's going to give us some insight into what's going on in our opponent's deck. It's just insane value. So we'll recruit up Gonti, and we'll pass the turn back to our opponent. Our opponent ponders and follows up with a red source. Okay, so 3 colors. Oh, and here comes a Mox. Interesting attack by Baral. We untap and draw a Mystic Confluence, though we don't have double blue, so not going to be able to play that anytime soon. But since our opponent played the Mox, instead of playing the Gonti, let's get Dak Faden down and steal the Mox from our opponent. And then we're going to leave the Imperial Recruiter back on defense to chump the Baral if our opponent attacks again, so that way we don't lose the Dak. All right, our opponent is on all sorts of colors over there. And as expected, they attack in with the Baral, and as planned, we will chump with the Recruiter. Okay, so they reanimate our Imperial Recruiter. Let's see what they grab. They grab a Baleful Strix. Interesting. So a lot of value over there for our opponent. And then they cast a Dimir Signet, and I expect they'll cast the Baleful Strix that they recruited up. They do. All right. So we won't be able to block the flyer, but we'll untap, see what we draw, and plan to plus a Dak to also get some additional card selection. All right. A Blackleaf Cliffs. Let's plus Dak. See what else we have available. All right. A Mountain and a Ponder. Happy to keep the Ponder. So I'm thinking that we'll start with Ponder, see what else we got going on, and then likely play Gonti. Always want to start with your card draw to maximize your options before you play any lands or before you take any actions through your first main phase. So on our Ponder, we hit an Ancestral Recall, Blood Chief's Thirst, and Zealous Conscripts. I love all 3 of these cards. So we'll just not shuffle our library here, get the Recall into our hand, and then cast Gonti as planned. Gonti hits the board, and let's see what our opponent is up to. Grixis, Scrubland, and Vamp Tutor. I would like to have a Vamp Tutor, so let's take that one. Thanks for the Vamp Tutor, opponent. And we'll play our land for turn and pass. So if our opponent attacks with all three, they will be able to attack down the deck, but we will at least be able to kill the Baral. Trying to think what we could Vampiric Tutor for at the end of our opponent's turn. All right, so our opponent casts a Lily. I expect her to down tick, which will get our Gonti off the board. And then they'll be able to attack out the deck. So it's pretty good play by the opponent. Knowing that we're going to be facing down to Liliana, I'm thinking with the Vamp Tutor that we're going to want to get something like a Blood Chief's Thirst to remove the troublesome Planeswalker. See ya, deck. All right. End of our opponent's turn. Let's play this Vamp Tutor. And yeah, I think I just want to get Blood Chief's Thirst. Taking a quick look at the deck, just to double check. We could Zealous Conscripts instead, actually, and steal a creature to attack down Liliana. That could work as well. And still have mana up for Essential Recall. So yeah, that's actually just going to be a better play, because then we'll actually get something on the board as well. So Zealous Conscripts coming on through. Steal down a Baleful Strix and get in there with the Baleful Strix attacking the Liliana and Zealous Conscripts at our opponent. And we will cast Ancestral Recall now, since we could draw Blood Chief's Thirst and play it this turn if we wanted. All right, a lot of action on our hand. Missing a second blue source for Yorion and for Mystic Confluence, so a little spotty there. If we have to, we could Phyrexian Metamorph our opponent's Dimir Signet. Well, let's see what our opponent plays. All right, the other Liliana Tribal going on over there. It's pretty good. So our opponent makes a zombie token and mills Ugin and a Force of Negation. So yeah, definitely just blue-black control. I really don't know what they're playing red and white for yet. Our opponent gets in there and passes the turn. So we have another option here. We could Phyrexian Metamorph our own Zealous Conscripts and steal the Liliana. But unfortunately, we couldn't, down tick to kill Liliana by too much. But I do think that's a decent play. So we can also Croaks at the same turn. So we'll play our Phyrexian Metamorph, and I do think we just Metamorph our Conscripts, take the Strix, and then attack out the Liliana. Liliana will survive, but she'll be at significantly reduced loyalty. The other game plan we can do, and this is a little more conservative, less aggressive. Let's Phyrexian Metamorph and actually copy the Dimir Signet. That will give us 2 blue sources. And because our Phyrexian Metamorph is untapped, we actually have 5 mana now available where we can hold up Mystic Confluence or cast Yorion. I am going to offer the trade here with the opponent between the Zealous Conscripts and the Baleful Strix. And they do take that trade. So just holding up Mystic Confluence now, we'll be able to bounce our own Imperial Recruiter back to our hand. If we have to get rid of any pesky zombie tokens or counter any big spells that our opponent's going to play. So there's 4 colors from our opponent, just missing green. They're probably on some Golos shenanigans. Let's see what they have in store. So our opponent does downtick the Liliana to return the Baleful Strix back to the battlefield and drawing a card. It's a decent play. And then they play another Liliana. So our opponent is 100% on Liliana Tribal. The reason we didn't counter is we're holding up Even Death Dracolic, which we can flash in here at end of turn. We'll actually be able to attack down one of the Lilianas now. And we also have the Lava Claw Reaches, which we can animate. So we may be able to kill both Lilianas this turn. It'll be close. So let's return the Baleful Strix and the Imperial Recruiter to hand. Well, our life total is a little low. It's either the Baleful Strix and the zombie or the Baleful Strix and the Imperial Recruiter. You know what? We don't need a third card. Let's just return all 3. I probably should have animated Lava Claw and just taken both Lilianas off the field. That probably would have been pretty good. As it stands now, we're going to Imperial Recruiter, and I'm not sure what's left in the deck that we can get. Oh, Sower, Murderous Rider. Yeah, okay, actually a lot. So Murderous Rider is definitely the right card here, as we'll be able to take care of that last Liliana. Our opponent untaps and pluses up on their Liliana the even death. That makes sense. Plays their Baleful Strix, which we return to the hand. Kind of knew that one was happening. And then casts the Shriekmaw. So luckily they can't destroy the even death with the Shriekmaw. So I'm thinking our next turn we're just going to cast Swift End on the Liliana and potentially just play Murderous Rider after that for the 2/3 lifelinker, which we'll be able to trade with the Shriekmaw. Let's see what we draw. Oh, we draw Duretti. Okay, so Duretti is also very good as we have artifacts that we can sack to destroy some troublesome creatures. So we can do both. We'll be able to kill the Liliana, play the Duretti, and then downtick, likely sacrificing the Mox Jet we stole from our opponent to kill either the Shriekmaw or the Baleful Strix. The other play, we do have an additional mana available. We can just get Grave Titan on the battlefield, so this is a little more high risk, high reward. I'm going to hang back with the Even Death just for an additional blocker as well. The reason I'm going to do this play is I'm able to get 10 power on the board, and the next turn we can play the Duretti to take care of the Baleful Strix, and therefore our Grave Titan can attack in and survive. If we can survive this turn from our opponent, I'm really liking our position. Our opponent untaps, plays another Swamp, and goes to attacks. There is the threat of ninjutsu, so I am going to block. And we can just return the Even Death to the battlefield at a later time. Oh man, this Baleful Strix has like been recurred from the graveyard and cast like 4 times this game. Our opponent must be digging for something. All right, they're tapping out. Time Warp. Yeah, see, so I'm pretty glad that A, we played the Grave Titan to get additional blockers down, and B, we blocked the Baleful Strix last turn, but they're going to be able to attack in again with the Baleful Strix. So if they do have ninjutsu, then I definitely just need to block as much as possible here. Please no ninjutsu. All right, they don't have it. All right, so I think they're just trying to eke us out. And they had no plays on that Time Warp, which is interesting. So Watergrave, not the greatest land. Don't really want to shock ourselves right now. So I actually want to lead on Kroxa to get a card out of our opponent's hand. I just don't want anything to get countered. This will at least get 1 card out of our opponent's hand. And they discard a Rashad Port. All right, get in there, Grave Titan. Let's get this game over with. Post-combat, we have the option to either play Duretti or play Yorion Sky Nomad, flickering our own Grave Titan. But I kind of really just want to get this Baleful Strix off the board again, as I can block pretty much anything else with our zombie tokens. Though since it was a makeshift mannequin and we targeted it, I actually don't have to sack anything, which is pretty nice. And then we'll be able to second main play Murderous Rider and get some lifelink out on the battlefield, which being at 5, pretty uncomfortable. But if our opponent, again, does nothing, they're staring down lethal next turn. They duress, hit nothing, feels great. And that does it. All right, let's go to sideboarding. So looking over our sideboard options here, let's just run it back and get to game 2. All right, game 2, we are on the draw again since we won the first game. And this hand has a Blood Chief's Thirst and a Metamorph, but no blue mana for Pestermite, and definitely no double blue. So I think this one is also a mulligan. We'll send it back. This hand's better because we have the Signet, no blue mana for the Ponder. Hopefully we can get there. For what we're going to put back, probably just the Pestermite. If we do draw blue land, we're going to want to Ponder with it. Our opponent leads on a Flooded Strand, pass the turn to us. Come on, blue mana. Hey, there's a Watery Grave. All right, sweet. Well, so we're going to lead with the Lava Claw Reaches since it is a tap land and pass the turn. And then next turn, we can either shock for Watery Grave to Ponder if we need to, or just get out the Rakdos Signet. Our opponent fetched up a scrubland and plays an island, followed up with their own Dimir Signet. So I think we're going to want to ramp as well so we don't lose pace behind our opponent and just get our Rakdos Signet out this turn. Yorion, not the greatest draw. So I'm just going to eat the 2 damage right now to make sure we have a blue source and get the Rakdos Signet on the board and pass the turn back to our opponent. Our opponent untaps, plays a swamp, taps for Yawgmoth. Okay. Not too afraid of Yawgmoth. They have no other creatures on the board right now. We draw a Stormcarved Coast, which is pretty good. Gives us our second blue source for a Yorion. And it comes into play untapped. So we can get our Worn Power Stone on the battlefield and ponder. But let's ponder first. See what we got going on. Might change our game plan. Kroxa into lands, not really what we're looking for, so let's shuffle this one back and just draw a fresh one off the top. It's a Blackleaf Cliffs. Okay, let's see. So we'll play the Blackleaf because it'll come into play untapped, and then we'll just get the Worn Power Stone down onto the battlefield, and we'll be able to cast our Yorion next turn. Opponent plays their 4th color of mana. And they cast their own Kroxa. Interesting. Okay, well, we'll pitch the swamp. They do not have enough cards in their graveyard to escape Kroxa back. That's really when Kroxa gets out of control. So our opponent actually activated Yawgmoth there in response to the sacrifice trigger in order to draw a card. So good play by the opponent. Do they have any follow-up play? Just getting in there with the Yawgmoth. Okay. Worst case, we'll be able to play our Yorion next turn. Bloodchief's Thirst, not a bad draw. That can take care of the Yawgmoth. We can Swift End, though, and play the Murderous Rider as a 2/3 lifelinker. I'm not sure about this play. I think probably just playing the Yorion would have been better. I'm probably just trying to get more value out of the Yorion because this does put another card in the graveyard for Kroxa to escape, but it's fine. We'll with the lifelinker, we'll be able to hopefully fortify our life total a little bit here since we're at 11 and pass the turn back to our opponent. Opponent untaps, plays a second swamp, and passes through their turn. So they don't have a lot going on over there. I'm happy. Oh, Gonti was a great draw. All right, Gonti, let's get some sweet stuff out of our opponent's deck. Had we not drawn Gonti, we could have just got attacked in with the Lava Claw Reaches and the Murderous Rider as well, which would have been fine. All right, so we'll play Gonti. Let's see what our opponent has got going on over there. Reanimate, Orzhov, Liliana. That's right, Liliana Tribal. Well, let's take the 5-mana Liliana, just because it's going to be a lot more value than the 3-mana Liliana. And I don't really want our opponent discarding cards since they can escape the Kroxa. And again, our opponent passes the turn. So 2 turns with no plays by our opponent, which is not going to be good for them. We draw a Dreadfast Demon, and you can see just that card's just not that great. Super filler in Vintage Cube. Just get this Liliana on the board and start just accruing value. Thanks for the Liliana, opponent. We'll plus Liliana, make a zombie token, and we did mill our Even Death, which was a pretty good mill target for us. All right, our opponent had a play, and then they just quit. All right, on to match 3. All right, welcome to match 3. And wow, this opening hand is great. Sol Ring, Prismatic Vista, Rakdos, and Dak, Magda. I love every card in this hand. Our opponent leads off on an island and sees what is up. Yeah, opponent, good luck. Draw a Phyrexian Metamorph, not bad, especially with the Sol Ring in hand. We'll play our Sol Ring and play into the Rakdos Signet and pass the turn back to the opponent. Our opponent plays a Swamp and passes the turn. Okay, so potential counter magic like a mana leak up for our opponent, but we have 5 mana available here on turn 2. Pretty good. What do we want to play? I don't want to run into counter magic, so let's play the Metamorph, and let's actually play Metamorph on Rakdos Signet. That's going to give us some more color. It'll give us double black for Murderous Rider and double red in case we would like to cast 2 spells in the future. Most players would probably Phyrexian Metamorph the Sol Ring there, but I would actually want more access to colored mana. And then in our second main, we can get Magda down and pass the turn. Both those spells resolve pretty easily, so I'm assuming our opponent may not have counter magic. Okay, they Collective Brutality. It will miss on our own hand. They did discard a Vraska Planeswalker. So let's actually just get Dak down. I know they don't have an artifact to steal, but we'll be able to loot. There's really no sense in getting a Zealous Conscript down, and there's no target for Murderous Rider at this time. Loot, Dak, loot. All right, a Croxa and a Worn Power Stone. So I definitely want to play Croxa this turn. We don't need the Dark Slick Shores. And we probably don't need the Worn Power Stone either, just because we have so much other artifact ramp on the board already. And we'll cast Croxa. See what our opponent discards. A Maelstrom Pulse. Interesting. I guess they don't have green mana, otherwise they can Maelstrom Pulse our Rakdos Signet and kill both of them. At the end of our turn, they cast Mystical Tutor for show and tell. Well, I guess we'll show out our Zealous Conscripts and hopefully we can destroy whatever they play with the Murderous Rider. All right, they show an Inkwell Leviathan. Not going to be able to Murderous Rider that one. Also can't steal it with Dak. What is our game plan gonna be? All right, that's a pretty good top deck. Ancestral Recall, thank you very much. We draw Mountain, Bloodchief's Thirst, and Dreadfast Demon. So once again, I can't cast the Bloodchief's Thirst. But now that we've put so many cards in our graveyard, we can escape the Croxa, and that's going to get the last card out of our opponent's hand, which is pretty nice, and it's a decent clock. A Tezzeret. Okay, so now we'll get a little more card selection with Dak, and it's a Mountain and a Mystic Confluence. So I don't have 2 blue, but I'm hoping to get another blue. I definitely don't need the Mountain, and with the Bloodchief's Thirst on our hand, I probably don't need the Murderous Rider either. Though we could have kept the Murderous Rider and maybe kept it around for some lifelink. We'll see if that ends up being a mistake. The good thing about Inkwell Leviathan on our opponent's side is it's not that fast of a clock. We have at least 3 turns here unless they do something else. And if they attack, they're facing down potentially 12 damage with the Croxa and the Zealous Conscripts on board. Okay, so they're going to get in there. I can't block because we do have the 1 island. And then they pass the turn. And we draw a Yorion, which we can also not cast. So let's dig a little bit deeper again with Dak. Dak card filtering is so good. Stormcarved Coast, so that's a second blue source and an Unholy Heat. I really don't like Dreadfast Demon. I like the creatures I have on board. Maybe it's a mistake to get rid of that, and the Unholy Heat doesn't really have a lot of targets. But now we can hold up Mystic Confluence for anything our opponent might play, and we're going to be able to get in there for at least 9 damage this turn. So I'm feeling pretty confident. I don't think our opponent's going to be able to attack any more with the Inkwell, just because we're threatening their life total so well. And then they ditch a Golgari Signet. Yeah, so they'll take 9 this turn. And our opponent is drawing off the top. Wow, our opponent is getting spicy. So they're attacking in again. And we're down to 3. I'm going to counter basically anything they play. It's a Metalworker. Yeah, they were just going to use it as a blocker. So we'll counter that easily and draw 2 cards. And that should be game. Yep. All right, on to sideboarding. All right, so we're playing blue, black, green. We're playing Sultai. Sneaky stuff, potentially an artifact theme with the Metalworker there. So I will make one swap out here. Unholy Heat didn't look like it had a lot of targets, and we'll bring in a makeshift mannequin. We can potentially just makeshift something crazy they have or something in our graveyard. Okay, going into this second game. This hand is close to a keep. Magda could help us get there, but I don't want to rely on Magda. And we need Devil Black for Gonti. So let's mulligan this one and get a new 7. This hand is okay. We do have a Grave Titan, and it's just a little slow. If we could get our Rakdos Signet and our Worn Power Stone out, we have 2 blue for the Mystic Confluence, so we may be able to get there. Let's hope our opponent also has a slower start. They lead on Creeping Tar Pit, and we draw Dak. Okay, that was a really nice draw. We'll be able to get our Rakdos Signet down next turn and have Dak on the battlefield on turn 3. Our opponent, again, sees what's up. I love Gitaxian Probe. It's just such a good card. It replaces itself and it gives you great information. In the Vintage Cube, Gitaxian Probe is just very useful. Second land source, and our opponent plays down a Selesnya Signet. Definitely on the artifact things. I don't think our opponent is actually playing green-white. And we'll lead with our own Signet here on turn 2. Our opponent plays Portent on us, so they want to see what's going on. and they choose not to shuffle. So we probably don't have a lot of bangers coming up here in our next draw steps. But I'm happy to draw lands. We need lands. Yeah, I'll take a land, and I'll play a Dak Faden and plan to steal our opponent's Selesnya Signet. All right, our opponent vamps in response. Interesting. Our Dak resolves, and we'll take our opponent's Signet. Pass the turn back. So let's see what our opponent Vampiric Tutored for. Collective Brutality. All right, they get the Mystic Confluence out of our hand. And then they pass the turn back. Interesting. So they also missed their land drop. So let's crack our Prismatic Vista, get a second blue source, just in case we draw Yorion, and get our Grave Titan down on the battlefield. $10 power, here you go. We'll once again dig a little deeper with Dak. Even Death and Soul Ring. I do like the Soul Ring, so we'll pitch the Worn Power Stone and pass the turn. All right, opponent, you're a little mana screwed. Yeah, okay. That's it for our opponent, and that'll do it for this league, and we take it down 3-0. All right, those were the games. Thanks for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, thanks so much. If you noticed an orange cat show up in your videos, that's supposed to be there. That's my cat Mulligan. Yes, his name really is Mulligan, and he's a crazy floofball. So if you like cats and you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. So thanks for watching. Thanks for chilling with me here, and I'll see you next time.